Camp Chikamauga. The trail of the U.S. military campsite revived in 3D after 64 years. Oaza Noguchibaru area, Beppu City, Oita Prefecture, Japan. There used to be a U.S. military campsite here. Its name is Camp Chikamauga. After the end of World War II, GHQ moved into Japan. Camps for the U.S. military were set up throughout Japan, including one here in Beppu. The name of the camp is Camp Chikamauga. In 1957, the site was returned to Beppu City after 11 years of confiscation by GHQ. Now, there are only a few traces of the former site left when viewed on Google Maps. The cityscape of Beppu has changed dramatically over the years. Now, Mr. Hisaho Takano, who lives in Oita, Japan, has attempted to revive Camp Chikamauga in 3D modeling after 64 years of its existence, with a certain fondness for the Camp Chikamauga that once existed. He recreated it in 3D modeling based on various documents, maps, drawings, and a few remaining old photos from that time. The animation will appear in the latter half of the video, so please watch it to the end to see the trajectory of Camp Chikamauga, the U.S. military campsite. The origin of the name Camp Chikamauga is the nickname of the U.S.Army, 19th Infantry Regiment, which was first stationed in Beppu at that time, and was named after its founder, U.S. Army General George Henry Thomas, who served in the American Civil War, and whose nickname was Rock of Chickamauga. Here is a brief history about Camp Chikamauga. On August 15, 1945, World War II ended. On August 30th of the same year, the U.S. Army's 8th Army arrived in Japan as an occupation force and began its occupation of the country. On October 4, 1945, Captain Homer L. Baker and 4 other members of the Occupation Forces advance team entered Oita City. On October 13, 1945, Vice Chief of Staff of the United States Army Joseph L. Collins, commander of the Occupation Forces Advanced Detachment, and 300 others entered seized areas in Oita and Beppu cities. In March 1946, the headquarters for construction of Oita Area Barracks for the Occupation Forces was established in the Beppu City Public Hall, now Beppu City Central Public Hall. In May of the same year, foundation work began on the Occupation Forces campsite at Noguchibaru in Beppu City. On July 14, the construction of the Occupation Forces Camp Chikamauga Barracks began in Noguchibaru, Beppu City. A groundbreaking ceremony was held with First Lieutenant Francis Berner, the U.S. military commander, Oita Prefecture Governor Noritoshi Hosoda, and Tokyo Umebayashi, the general manager of the Umebayashi Gumi Construction Division, as guests of honor. On the same day, he was given strict orders to complete the project by Christmas in December. On November 30th, the troop housing was completed. On December 15th of the same year, the 19th Infantry Regiment of the 24th Division was transferred from Oita City to Beppu City. From this time until 1957, the U.S. Army was stationed in Beppu for about 11 years. In March 1947, the first phase of construction of officers' quarters, dependent housing, was completed. In June of the same year, the second phase of construction of officers' quarters was completed. On June 25th of the same year, the Korean War began. On July 27, 1953, the Korean War truce. On August 31, 1956, Camp Chikamauga was closed. On March 25, 1957, the confiscation by GHQ was lifted. All camp-related facilities were returned to Beppu City. On December 16 of the same year, the site of Camp Chikamauga was turned over to the Japan Ground Self-Defense Force Beppu Garrison. After the war ended, GHQ planned to establish campsites throughout Japan. In Oita Prefecture, Camp Chikamauga and training grounds were established in Beppu City. The camp is huge, covering approximately 4,000 acres, including the training area. That is a huge scale, equivalent to about 31.74 Tokyo Disneylands. Camp area, 107.9 acres. East-west, 6,325.46 feet. North-south, 3,917.32 feet. Highest point elevation, 515.09 feet, present-day Tsurumiencho, Beppu City. Lowest point elevation, 177.17 feet, present-day Noguchibaru, Beppu City. Elevation difference, 403.54 feet. The construction cost of the barracks was approximately $1,390,000 at the time. The construction cost of officers and enlisted men's quarters was approximately $417,000. 47 officer-dependent housing units, 9 bachelor officers' quarters, and 20 large troop housing were constructed. In fact, 189 buildings were constructed in just 6 months, including various ancillary buildings such as the command building and the engineering department. This construction period and number of man-hours would have been difficult to complete even for a major general contractor in today's world of stricter safety controls. 19th Infantry Regiment. The unit's nickname is the Rock of Chikamauga. Stationed at the time the camp was established. Stationed from December 15, 1946 to June 1951. 187th Airborne Infantry Regiment. Unit nickname was Rakazans. Stationed after the outbreak of the Korean War. Stationed from June 1951 to July 5, 1955. During the Incheon landings, the unit suffered heavy casualties of about 3,000 men. 508th Airborne Infantry Regiment. The unit's nickname was the Red Devils. After the armistice of the Korean War, the 187th Airborne was replaced by the 508th Airborne. The period of stationing was from July 13, 1955 to July 12, 1956. Let's take a look at Camp Chikamauga revived in the modern age with 3D CAD. This is the main gate. The main gate was located at the west exit of the modern Beppu Park, behind the current Beacon Plaza, at the corner of Nagorikawa Street. Dedicated to Captain John Oliver and Mrs. Shige Nagata. There were two people who made a great contribution to Beppu at the end of World War II. They were Major John Oliver, U.S. Army, and Mrs. Shige Nagata, director of Hikari no Sono, a children's home. John Oliver first visited Japan in 1953 when he arrived at Camp Chikamauga in Beppu City, Oita Prefecture, as a member of the 187th Airborne Infantry Regiment. A highly decorated World War II veteran, it was during his time in Beppu City that he learned of the Hikari no Sono orphanage. It was an orphanage for orphans who had lost their parents in the war. There he met Shige Nagata, the director of the orphanage, who was devoted to caring for the orphans, and he became involved with the orphanage. Shortly after his reassignment to the U.S. in 1956, he learned that Camp Chikamauga was closed and the orphanage could no longer receive the financial support provided by the American community in the camp. So he and his family made a donation to the orphanage. In 1960, the Earn family was again assigned to Camp Sama in Japan. They visited Hikari no Sono in Beppu again, and Major Earn started his personal activities to raise funds for the orphanage again. In December of the same year, he made a bet. He asked the soldiers in his unit to bet on whether or not they could reach the 826-mile distance from Camp Sama to Beppu, where the orphanage was located, on foot within 2 weeks. His wager was successful. The winnings were used to fund the construction of a new dormitory at Hikari no Sono. In December 1962, he joined 5 other Japanese and Americans on this march. He and 7 others went on foot a total of 3 times to raise funds for the orphanage. Major Earn was honorably killed in Vietnam on Christmas Eve, 1965. But his distinguished military career and his selfless dedication to helping others based on the belief that helping others is true happiness continue to be an inspiration to many. In his honor, an elementary school in Camp Sama, Kanagawa Prefecture, is now named John Earn Elementary School in his honor. The story was made into a movie in 1970 called The Walking Major by the Japanese film production company Ishihara Promotions.